I'm going to not say that here.
All right. The meeting for the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners is open, and we're going to start with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda this morning.
I'll move the agenda review. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed. Commissioners' reports. Drew, I know you got a long one, so why don't you start?
Oh. You mean you don't have a long one this morning?
I got a long one too.
Okay, so I'll try to shorten mine up.
But you know what? I will not double dip. So if what you say, I'm not going to double on. So
Really?
Yeah.
The reason Vance is saying that is because we went to NACO and we were gone for 5-6 days out there for the annual NACO legislative conference. Okay, let me see how many pages I got here. Okay, I only got 5. So our last meeting was February 17th, and we had a wonderful luncheon afterwards together, a luncheon meeting at the Eagle's Nest in Eagle Lake. And then on that Saturday, I arrived in D.C., Washington, D.C., for the legislative conference, and attended the reception at Dennis and Elena, I believe it is, McGran's home, and he's a well-known lobbyist working for Association of Minnesota Counties and for NACO, and works on issues on behalf of county business up on Capitol Hill. And a lot of the Minnesota delegation was there. Vance was there. Vance, I think you walked half the way there, which is several miles. And then on Sunday, I attended the NACO Health Steering Committee, and that's about a 3-hour meeting. They have many presentations, and I'll just try to shorten them up if I can here a little bit. But there was the Honorable Michael Botticelli, he's a director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy for the White House. And he spoke and invited counties to join in with the White House drug policies, which have a return on investments, to work on their drug treatment programs for improvement, ones that are successful and that don't just kind of crank people through and back out again and keep going through the system, but can actually help people. So there's reform going on there that they're calling for. Diversion programs. He said the drug courts are really working well, and he's encouraging other counties to do this because a lot of them aren't right now in the county. And just to look for innovative ways to help provide meaning in the lives of people who are at most risk and risk of reoffending. There was another speaker, Dr. Stephan Shah, CHA, and he's the Chief Medical Officer for the Center of Medicaid and CHIP Services, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And he presented on federal priorities in healthcare financing and delivery. He looked for system upgrades and innovations, making sure that our efforts are aligned with the outcome goals that are intended. And he included identifying the barriers to some of these service delivery programs, providing supportive models, such he really identified supportive housing, supportive employment programming, and supportive long-term care services. He also talked about the implementation of the Parity Act of 2008, where insurance companies, were hardly providing anything before for mental health services and for behavioral health. And so that's become a real, you've probably read about it a lot in the news lately, that things are really changing in that whole area, even now with the Affordable Care Act, so that equal dollars are available for people to receive treatment for mental health services, which they believe is really going to change some things in America. The next speaker was Julie Triccio, and she spoke about the impact of having local nonprofit hospitals in your community and in your county and how they have the responsibility to carry out, there's expectations to their nonprofit status. And so to make sure that they're involved with community outreach and planning, providing wellness planning for your community, programming, and collaborating with other agencies in your region. And this is required on their IRS 990 form. They're actually required to report every year all of their activities, and there's some threshold they're supposed to have to maintain their nonprofit status as a nonprofit hospital. So that was interesting to hear. And I know our hospital here is involved in a lot of things. Mayo is involved in our community. But I'm assuming this is, you talk about globally, you wonder what's going on in other counties throughout the country. And there was another presentation on a community health assessment. I brought back some folders. It was in, I'm trying to think what county that was in. It was in Wake County, North Carolina. And they developed a real collaborative program, which only takes about 6 months, they claim, to do a good health assessment, looking for needs that you might need to address in your county. Sometimes they can take up to 18 months. And so they're kind of held up as one that's kind of an example. So I brought back some folders to share with Phil and Angie and Bob and whoever else would like to look at them. And then at the end of the afternoon on Sunday, this is still Sunday, we all had the Minnesota caucus delegation. We all met together as conferees, and we had some legislative updates and heard some reports from the steering committees from the last 2 days. And that was like, I think 4 to 5 or 5:30 to 6:30 or something. I can't remember the time, but it was right at the end of the day on Sunday. And then we had a surprise speaker on Monday morning, right? Fairly good surprise. We had to all go through security and plan for this ahead of time. We got notified after we were there. The Vice President, Joe Biden, came to address the convention or the conference, and I thought that was really nice of him to come. And he even said that he was a county commissioner at one time, and he believes that county government touches people's lives more directly than any other form of government. I thought that was an interesting statement. I quoted him on that one. And two things he really was looking for, of course, was development of skilled workforce that we need in this country, which includes education, development of modern infrastructure in our country, and reasons to support the President's initiatives. He was pretty much speaking towards those. The Grow America Act, which has $478 billion going into infrastructure and transportation. So that was kind of interesting. I don't know how much to shorten up here. I went to some workshops. Jason, at the end of that speaker, Vice President was Jason Grumet. He's the founder of the Bipartisan Policy Center and works towards initiatives so that people can be more bipartisan. I remember one thing he said, he says, and so did the President, trying to spend more time in committees, which isn't happening right now out there. So they're not working together as much as they need to, and people know that. But if they could spend more time in committees, building relationships and rapport with one another, we might be able to get more done. I also attended a workshop on public pension reforms, and there was a gentleman that spoke who was, let's see what his title is. He's on the, oh boy, he works for the Senate Finance Committee with Orrin Hatch as the chair. And he talked about how the IRS does really govern how the pensions operate. But as counties, we always are adjusting. Government pension plans need adjusting as you go along, and he talked about one option that he's going to have, Orrin Hatch is going to bring forward, which is a bill called Lifetime Annuity Plan. And that is, it's an annuity which both can pay into, but the employee, when they leave, can take it with them then and continue. So let's say they spend 15 years and decide to take on something else. They can take that annuity with them and they actually own it. So every year they own something that they're given as a lifetime annuity payout type plan. It was interesting. There's a lot more about that I've got notes on, but let's see, workshop on Monday afternoon on pretrial reform, which I'm sure our county is learning about and discussing, along with the attorney's office, the judges, the corrections people that work on the ground, both looking at state and federal changes for pretrial detainees. They account for about 60% of the inmates in our county jails in the country, which costs about $9 billion per year. And he talks about how those being detained are considered low-risk offenders. Because what happens is, you get detained for courts or whatever it might be, people who have connections and have people who will stop in and pay their, their bail money, a lot of times they're the ones that should be kept in jail. And he says the ones that aren't connected are more low risk, don't have the availability to funds, are kept in the jails. And according to studies, over 70% of those kind of low risk inmates will show up in court for their hearings. And so they're looking at all these different efforts towards trying to redefine the procedures for detainees in jails, which would save dollars.
Minnesota's been a good leader in that reform.
I figured you've been on a lot of committees with that thing.
Absolutely.
Well, Minnesota's a head front of that whole thing, so I mean, we're...
Good, that's good topic.
Yeah, it was really, he said it's just a lot of money that just seems to be wasted, and it's not helping people. The outcomes aren't happening. Also talked about if you're going to have a new model, you can't just tweak the old one. He says it's really important to just completely, pretty much try to get rid of the old model and come up with a new model. It's easier to implement, it's better for change in the long run. It's really hard to do these minor changes with the old models. But anyway, and he also talked about the fact that in the last 30 years our jail admissions have doubled throughout the country. So,
which again, Minnesota hasn't.
We haven't?
No. Minnesota is one of the lowest prison rates in the nation.
Oh, okay.
We have the lowest
capita.
lowest amount of money spent too, I think, one of the.
Prison.
That's good. Yeah. So I could go on and on. We also went to some more workshops. Of course, I'll let Vance talk a little bit about up on the hill probably. We visited with our local U.S. legislators. And I will say, I'll say something about Wednesday morning at least. We had the Minnesota delegation get together for breakfast, and some folks came to speak to us. I don't even know where I kept my notes here, but it was Tim Walz who came, Al Franken, Representative Nolan, excuse me, and let's see if I can find one of the sheets. Here we go, maybe. Yeah. I wanted to say some words about Representative Rick Nolan, if I may. His big word was, he kept saying it, let's hash it out. And he just wants people to spend more time in committee. And I've actually been thinking about this too. I wish they had a requirement where they had to stay in Washington D.C. one weekend every month, even, so they might bump into each other outside of the floor, you know. But he just believes that it's important that they get more back into the committees, and it was just a special breakfast just for the Minnesota delegation, and we met at the Library of Congress. And I know that Vance went to a special meeting that morning, so he was unable to attend. So I had worked up some questions for several of the people that had come, including Amy Klobuchar, Tim Walz, Rick Nolan, and it was a good morning. Tom Emmer, he's the first time up there on the Hill, and he feels like one of his biggest jobs right now up there, because he's a newbie on the Hill, is to kind of build relationships with the other legislators. Get to know them, let them get to know him, and it was a good time. So, but it is a little bit draining, I have to admit it. It's a lot of running around. I'm telling you.
Hard work.
It is more than you think, and maybe I'm getting older or something. I don't know. But it's just, it's my 6th time being there for the legislative conference in Washington, D.C., and, if you try to pick up as much as you can, go to as many workshops, go to the meetings, it really does kind of drain you a little bit, so. But it was, I felt all in all, it was a very good conference, and we could have done without some of the snowstorms. There was a snowstorm when I arrived on Saturday, and there was a snowstorm as I left on Thursday morning, and it was below zero a couple of the days we were there. It was cold in Washington.
I've got to say, this is the most snow I've ever seen in DC.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
It was crippling for those folks.
Oh, yeah, of course, they don't have the snow equipment. How do you budget for something that happens twice a year?
Yeah. All I know is I was pulling my luggage on the wheels through about 4 inches of snow and slush. So. And I got lost on the subways only once.
Well,
But that's my report.
Okay.
Met with Bob yesterday.
Well, we're glad you're back despite getting lost.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, on the 18th, I met with the executive director and the assistant executive director of the TDS to talk about some issues within that organization. The following day, we had a personnel committee meeting for TDS, some of the issues that we talked about with the executive and the assistant director. Then we had a board meeting with TDS. Then on the 23rd, we had the solar ordinance discussion, developing the new solar ordinance. I was very pleased with the discussion we had at that meeting. On the 25th, I had lunch with a bunch of young farmers at SCTC. They were from Farm Bureau, and they had spent the morning talking about how to engage decision makers. And so over the lunch period, they invited several decision makers, myself, and Pat was there, Sheriff Peterson, Eric Anderson, and they tested their skills on how to approach decision makers. So we were the guinea pigs, but very interesting. They were very engaged on farm issues. That afternoon we had a ditch advisory board meeting, talked about some of the issues that we're facing with county drainage right now. Then on the 26th, I and two of my colleagues from the Rural Minnesota Energy Board were at the Senate Tax Committee asking them to relax their formula for when they put levy limits on. They consider the amount of production tax on renewable energy, and that's deducted from the formula. And it's not a big issue for us here in Blue Earth County, but for the folks down in southwestern Minnesota that have a lot of solar or a lot of wind energy production tax, some of them take as much as $1.5 million hit when the legislature does that. And we thought that it was kind of a benign issue, but we were not well received. There's no cost to the state. We just asked them to not put that in the formula.
yeah.
So, and that's the end of my report.
Chip. My report, other than what was already mentioned, and Drew and Vance, thanks for going out to NACO. And it does take a lot of time. I haven't been out there for several years, and I should get out there again. But you're right, that is a draining, exhausting schedule that the staff sets up for us when we go out there. But I think you get a lot of stuff done, and I think it's great that someone from the board gets out there. And the fact that two of you go, that's good. So,
Just one thing I wanted to mention. I was amazed at some of the architecture, and the art. And Senator Amy Klobuchar was on the floor probably, and so we had to take that little train underground and from her office and go over there and then be escorted, and there's security everywhere. And we were in what they call the reception room to the Senate chamber, the Senate floor. And not very many people get into that room. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm telling you, the floors were inlaid with beautiful, and this is ancient stuff, old floors, beautiful marble and granites, and the walls were like carved walls, half coated in real gold. I mean, the ceilings were all relief ceilings coming down, carving, and it was the most ornate room I've ever seen in my entire life.
Even more than the governor's reception area
I'll
and
tell you
the state
something.
capitol?
This was unbelievable.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I just
But,
thought I'd mention
you know,
it.
and that's part of going out there and getting
Yeah.
to be able to get inside and do that stuff, because, you know,
Yeah.
as a, you know, regular citizens, you don't have that
Oh,
opportunity a
no.
lot of times, and that why, when,
And they had a meeting table right in there. And we
Yep.
just sat, Amy came out and sat at the end of the table,
Yep.
and we just met there. And
I think
anyway.
the one time I was out there, actually, I think we were in that room, you know, when Clean was out there, she got all over that place, you know, she was just so well connected there.
Right.
It was a lot of fun to be walking around with her, because she
She
knew
knows
everybody,
all that. Yeah.
and she could get everywhere, and we too got to go down with
Yeah, it helps to
Overstar.
have- helps
in
to
the
have
train.
somebody that's the president of NACO that's leading
Yeah.
you around, yeah.
So it was pretty exciting, going out there with Clean, and, but again, I know it takes a lot of time on you guys, so I appreciate you guys going on behalf of Blue Earth County.
I bump into people out there all the time that ask about Colleen.
Do you?
All right.
All over. Yeah.
gotta-
So
we gotta
we had
continue here.
Intergov, which we talked a little bit about their sales tax, that City of Mankato is going through. We talked a little bit about some road projects, just kind of got together again and had a nice conversation. Mark and I were at RCF last Monday, and they had what's called a biz pitch. Some person, the entrepreneur, comes in and just kind of talks about his business and tries to get ideas from the group on how to improve his business. And this guy was from Blue Earth area, I believe, was he? And he's trying to get into the
dairy
cheese.
farm
Yeah,
in
dairy,
Iowa,
makes
but he
cheese, so.
his retail thing.
We had
wasn't
a
good.
good time visiting with him, and conversation went really well. Will touched on the solar ordinance, and I believe we continued that meeting till March 9th. Is that what we did?
Yep. Yes.
2 weeks from that day, so March 9th. So if you guys are available that night, we'll kind of do a wrap-up and a follow-up. As Will said, we did have a great conversation about the things that were going on, and I think it's coming together really fast, but there'll be one more meeting, so if you guys are available that night at 4 o'clock, I believe. So
What's that?
March 9th at 4 o'clock,
Here, it'd be like the third floor.
up on the third floor, yep.
Would it be a couple hours or just be like an hour or something?
We were at 2 hours last
Yeah, so
time,
kind of-
but I think I would figure 4 to 6. We try to wrap it up by 6.
It'll wrap up quickly this time.
Yeah.
Got through a lot of it.
And then, as Will mentioned, we had a ditch meeting. We just talked about some of the issues that we got going on here. And yesterday I had my MRCI meeting, and we kind of deferred all of our regular business. We did a couple business things, but then we spent about an hour and a half to hour and 45 minutes just talking about strategic planning for where the program's going to go in the next 3, 4, 5 years with this Olmsted decision, the new Ulm store closing, and how we're going to get all the consumers into a workplace. A lot of good news over New Ulm. Things are coming together fairly well over there. That was a big hit for us. I think I reported last time that we had a meeting and the Kraft pulled their stuff out of there, and we did end up placing most of the consumers in that program over there, so that's a good thing, and all of the staff, but I think 2 that just wanted to move on. So the staff were all able to be moved around inside the organization, so that worked out pretty well. Still a lot of work to get done, but it's coming together pretty well. So we spent about 90 minutes just talking about the future of MRCI. If we do end up putting all these consumers out in the workplace, what are we going to do with all the space that we have for the workshops and whatnot? So a lot of discussion about that, and things are moving forward at MRCI pretty well right now. So that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Well, why don't we postpone mine and Mark's? We'll get to our drainage.
Morning, Casey.
So
Hi,
Casey,
Casey.
you're out.
We know where Craig is, so, yeah.
Yes. Craig is on vacation, so I'll be stepping in this morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I'd like to start by requesting the hearing on the repaired portions of CD 12 be set for March 31st, 2015 at 10:30 a.m. And we have received a repair report from the appointed engineer, Chuck Brandel.
I will move that recommendation.
Second.
Any questions, concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's been passed.
Great. The next item I'd like to do is we've received the preliminary improvement report from the appointed engineer on CD 78, and so I'd like to also set a hearing for that ditch, and we are recommending that is for March 31st at 11 a.m. That would be a preliminary improvement hearing.
Okay.
I would move that.
Second.
Any questions, concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed.
Very
See
good.
how fast this goes?
Wonderful.
Well, it's because of your great,
You know,
Leadership.
Graceful, yeah.
you do it so much better than Greg.
Okay, the next one, we have received a petition for JD9 for improvements. The petition was reviewed by Kurt Dieter and is found adequate, so I'm requesting that we appoint an engineer, Chuck Brandel, for a preliminary survey report for JD9.
So move.
Second.
Any questions, concerns?
I would just like to make a comment. This is the one that we've met twice already. Once here in the courthouse, once over in Eagle Lake, JD9, and it's going to get complicated, but we'll work through it as best we can with informational meetings, and I'll let you know if you want to come to any of the informational meetings that we have throughout the process here. But they got a good petition going, and hopefully they'll go really well.
I see everybody's listed on here too. They got
Yeah,
people
they
listed.
got quite a few listed on there, so
Okay.
all the upstream people. So, that just wanted to give you that information.
Sounds good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's been passed.
Wonderful, that's all I have for you.
Oh,
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Casey.
Just like that, Casey.
Yep, come again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's bring Mr. McDermott up, and he can give us his informational update.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning, Pat.
The internet's a little bit slow right now. Essentially, I don't have anything major to report on the numbers, and I think you've all, those were provided in the packet. You'll see that there's some increase in caseload in some of the more serious cases, and we're down a little bit in misdemeanor prosecution. As far as the numbers go, do you have any questions, concerns, or comments relating to those?
Just page by page, I was looking at that first page, you know, when you're looking at the adult criminal filings, and I'm just wondering, you know, what we did, because I wasn't a commissioner back in 2000, you know, and you had over 500 misdemeanors, and now we're down to, you know, 100 and some maybe or something, or is it just?
There's a couple of things, Commissioner Campbell. With that, because of the overload on the courts and the overload on the system, the judiciary has slowly and steadily over the years made more and more misdemeanor type crimes considered payables. So they can simply walk in and pay a ticket. They'll simply impose a fine without having to have a mandatory appearance. It always used to be, they did converted many driving offenses such as driving after revocation, driving after suspension. They even included no insurance in the last couple of years and some careless and reckless driving. So those are cases that the numbers are down from a prosecution standpoint. It's just to take some pressure off the courts.
Okay. And then I did notice you had 823. What does that mean for 15 for the felonies?
That's at a pace. If you
were to multiply it out, you mean?
Correct.
Oh,
correct.
so it might not be that.
It might not be that. That's just to where we're at compared to from a pace standpoint through
I see.
February 20th.
So if you were to look at February 20th and in 12 or something like that, and compare it, then it would be that we'd be higher this month than that year or something
Correct.
like that. That's all. It's an indicator.
It's an indicator if the pace continues, that's what it would be. If at the pace that we're going, that's what the numbers would be.
Given human behavior, though, it's hard to know, isn't it? I mean, it could be higher, it could be way lower.
Well, I think a good example was yesterday. If you looked at the transport list, there was probably about a dozen people on the transport list, and that is becoming more of the norm. Whereas a few years ago, that was the exception and not the rule, and it's becoming more of the rule.
Oh, wow.
On most Mondays, we typically can deal with up to 10 to as many as, in recent weeks, 16 people in custody that we have to deal with on any given Monday morning.
Okay. Wow.
Okay.
Any other questions with respect to the numbers, gentlemen? Okay.
It's good to have.
Yeah. It's just a handful of other things I'm not going to get into detail, but there's been many other things that I've been working on. It's been extremely busy. You know, I've shared with some of you before, working quite a few different weekends trying to get caught up on some things. But I've been meeting with various department heads, and will continue to meet with those department heads and discuss some of the issues and their wants, desires, and needs compared to what with our resources we'll be able to provide. So if you have any generic questions, concerns, comments with respect to anything to the office that you would like to discuss, I'm more than happy to answer those questions if I'm able.
Well, how's it going? Is it going pretty well?
Yeah.
It's extremely busy.
I know it sounds kind of silly, but it was
It's been extremely busy. I mean,
Has it?
Yes.
because it started out with all these high, with quite a few numbers here, January, February, so it's...
Right. But just getting around and talking to all the department heads and trying to sort out some of the things that they would like to see done. Now is the time to implement those changes, and that's what we're working on, and we'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
And it's been almost a year, isn't it, since we added one more attorney to the office?
Correct.
And hopefully that's helping a little bit, you know.
That is helping a little bit, but part of the, you know, if you look at the end of last year, we were down with respect to a person out on maternity leave that we did not replace. There was an individual with some personal health issues that was gone for a substantial amount of time, so it's those types of things.
Kind of filled in the gaps there.
Right. We've been, and that's what's, we've been working on the backlog of cases and trying to get those processed and some of the other things, but that's just on top of everything else, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Do we keep track, Pat, of when a case comes in, whether it gets settled before it goes to court, or if it goes to court, and then if it goes to court, whether you got what you needed, or is there any? I mean, we have a lot of numbers here, and maybe they're in these numbers. I just don't understand them. But you understand what I'm asking? You know, kind of where we're at as far as what they're doing inside the office.
Yes, that's one thing that I've been, since the first of the year, since I've been sworn in, I'm keeping closer track of case processing times.
Okay.
But these are cases that would have been filed with the court. These don't include cases that would have been reviewed and either referred to another agency for prosecution or referred back to law enforcement for follow-up, or those types of cases. We don't have those numbers in any of these.
Okay.
I'm working on getting more of the numbers because we haven't kept track in this type of format, but getting more of the numbers from the truancies, the commitments, the paternities, those types of things, and I'm hopeful at our next meeting that I'll be able to provide some more information with respect to that as well. One thing, Commissioner Brunder, that you've touched on is looking at some of these different areas, and at some point in time in the near future, I've already started in part, but reviewing the juvenile diversion process from top to bottom and implementing some new procedures in that respect. There are quite a few cases that will go through diversion that aren't in any of these numbers, and that's one thing I anticipate, trying to get some of those numbers, because that, you know, it's an increased caseload, or it's a part of the caseload for not only our office but for corrections, and it just it's something that needs to be taken a look at and just figure out exactly what is the process and procedures, because there's not too much in writing, and that kind of bothers me that we don't have some of these processes and procedures in place that are in written form, and I'm working on those, and that's a continuation process, but hopefully within a couple months we'll get there.
Oh, nice. I just think that would be kind of interesting information to have, to see what they're doing inside the organization and
I think a lot
how
of
much time they're spending on each case, or...
A lot of them, they try to negotiate down right away.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I know they go right.
Well, as the nature of the beast, you have to, otherwise the system will come to a screeching halt. It's difficult in some respects, but that is the nature of the beast. Otherwise, you know, because there's a small portion of percentage-wise of cases that are actually proceed to trial. There are, as far as, you know, some of the numbers, I mean, a few years ago I had provided some numbers, and I don't know what all was shared with you. I wasn't privy to that information at that point in time, but with respect to average caseload and caseload statistics, and I realize in some respects it's apples to apples and oranges to apples. But the public defender's office, when they do for their case breakdown statistics, they have their weighted caseload average in so many different units. And you know, and the court does it a little bit differently with respect to the homicide cases. That's they haven't got me specifically how they assign the weighted caseload with respect to that, but you know, we can break this down by units. One thing that we've never kept track of that I started keeping track of a while ago was probation violation cases. And the significance to that just simple thing is that the public defender's office considers that a brand new case. If somebody that's sentenced 6 months ago on a felony drug charge and then they violated the terms of their probation, corrections has already had their case management, they try to take care of it in-house before it goes back to court. But if it comes back to court, even though the public defender was appointed on that case 6 months ago, they close their file, so then they reapply, public defender gets appointed again to represent that individual, and that counts as a case from a public defender standpoint. We have never counted that as an additional case in our office, but those are numbers that with respect to probation violations that I've started keeping track of, because it is, for some, you know, there's numbers that you need to compare and whatnot, but that's just another avenue of obtaining more information. So,
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Pat.
Thanks,
We
Pat.
really appreciate it. We appreciate the updates.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, Mark, it's
Oh, you mean I get to?
yeah, we're going to come right back to you for your reports, because we know that your last 2 weeks was filled with interesting and exciting things.
Except for DC, I guess, huh?
I just want to know if you got on a bicycle and pedaled it all.
He did.
Oh, yeah.
He's my hero.
Jeez. February 18th, in fact, at Partners for Affordable Housing, we are indeed looking for a new executive director, because our director is going to retire, yeah. So we had a search committee for that. And Kip, we had the RCF, then the 19th, the Thursday, had the Partners for Affordable Housing. We had our board meeting, orientation meeting for new board members, and that went well. Then the 23rd, yeah, that was the solar ordinance discussion. Then on the 24th, yeah, we had the landowners had County Ditch 12 that we approved the hearing today for. And then, let's see here, yeah, that was then the Pedal Past Poverty was the big thing on Saturday. And Vance was on the team with me. And did a super job.
We do have superheroes on our team, don't we?
We did a great
we
job.
do.
We'll get a different bike next time, since ours had technical problems.
It was a
and
conspiracy, man.
Yeah, I think some other team,
Yeah.
sabotaged. No. Actually, they said that bike was probably that way last year, I guess. Yeah, so we'll have to... Anyway, that went well. We raised... Who won? Well, actually, we had problems, and so even like Paul Bogle, who normally would get like 6 miles on it or so, he was over 5 because the seat didn't stay tight.
Oh, they did it for
Yeah,
him
so-
too?
yeah.
I thought it was only for people my size that
Well,
that seat
you
kept on
You
sliding.
were like the first, I think, were you when
I
you
was like
were-
the third
Yeah,
person,
so
I
it didn't right away, but it did get, for the rest of everybody else, no matter what the Shields Tech
They
did,
knew that
or
our
the Nicollet
team
Bike
would've-
Tech
yeah,
did, they didn't.
I
they-
have a
yeah.
feeling that they were watching us, and they set it up that way.
Yeah. So.
I take it you guys didn't win then. If
No,
Ah,
no.
yeah,
we
I think
didn't.
you can take that pretty
Yeah,
much.
you can take that, yeah, we didn't.
The lawsuit will come in later on.
That's it. Let's see, and then, yeah, so we raised over 3,000 more coming in. We should hopefully match this last year's. I think we will, maybe even go beyond. And then, I did appear before the city council on the Monday prior to that, for Partners for Affordable Housing, because, yeah, we added to your sales tax extension mix that they talked to at intergovernmental committee, because your historic museum, the Blue Earth County Historical Society, and then the council added the Vine Senior Center, and then we were able to get the supportive housing, which would be Partners for Affordable Housing, to be in the mix to see if we get a little something for our Marion Hall that we'll try to rehab and take over for our shelters for the Trees House and welcome in. So we'll see. We're on first base, and we'll go from there.
Looks good.
Yeah, and so that then Sunday after the bike race, I did go to the Beck's. They had their Historical Society annual meeting, and they were very thankful for the county support all the way through and through. Randy Zelmer probably said it 3 or 4 times. Yeah, so
That's good.
they were very
Meeting there
appreciative.
for mayors and clerks?
Yes, and we'll be mayors and clerks coming up. So, That
All right.
concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
All right. Well, I'm going to try to cut mine down a little bit, since mine and Drew's are a lot alike,
But still, a lot of differences.
but a lot of differences
Yeah.
too.
We
Yeah.
just barely bumped into each other sometimes.
So we start with our last meeting. I left. I didn't go to lunch with you folks. I went to lunch down at the City Center Hotel. That the American Heart Association was meeting down there, and my wife was talking and gave her story on her journey through her heart attack, which happened a year ago, last February 7th. And then on the next day, on February 18th, I went to a transportation talk from Governor Dayton, which was up at MnDOT. And kind of shows his views on what he's looking for funding for transportation. On February 19th, I had an intergovernmental meeting with the city of Mankato, and then we had a attorney settlement discussion right here. Was that here? It was in your room, wasn't it, Bob? Yes. On the 20th, I flew out to D.C. for the NACO Legislative Conference. I started right away on Saturday morning with a legislative update at 8 o'clock in the morning. I went to a technology summit. In the afternoon, I had subcommittees for transportation, my transportation steering committee. So I had subcommittees on ports, on airports, on transit and rail, and on highways. And people ask, what does Blue Earth County have to do with ports? Well, we don't have any ports in Blue Earth County, but I tell you what, if the Mississippi River gets plugged up, the corn and beans have a hard time getting down. And so the ports really make a difference to rural Minnesota when it affects us like that.
Oh, yeah. Plus we have the Minnesota River. The CHS has got a port up there.
Mm-hmm.
And our water activity that we do here impacts some of what they do there.
Yep.
So,
And then, as Drew said, we had the get-together at Dennis McGrann's place. That's always nice. He puts on, he gets the whole state of Minnesota, the people that are there together, and a lot of times a lot of the congressmen and legislators are there too. So it's a way to kind of rub shoulders with people and find out what other people are doing in the state. On the 22nd, the next day, I went to the Ag and Rural Affairs subcommittee meeting, our committee meetings, and then I went to my Transportation Steering Committee meetings. Then we had our Minnesota caucus in the afternoon. On the 23rd, I went to the Central Region Caucus meeting. We had to actually get in line at 6:30 in the morning because of Vice President Biden showing up, and to make sure we got in line and got,
they check everything in.
they check you as good as the airports do, if not better. They do a pretty good check. They don't want anything getting through. And they elected Oklahoma Commissioner Cindy Bobbitt as chair Our own Renville County Commissioner Bob Fox was running for this position. It was a very close race. I'm thinking it was within one vote, you know. So you got, yeah, it was 11 states, and I think it was a 6-5 vote. Very well run, very well respected. I mean, they both ran very clean. You know, it's something that you can sit there and say, yeah, Bob had nothing to be ashamed about, because both of them were very well respected commissioners.
And Bob Fox is from Renville County.
Yep.
Isn't that, didn't I say that?
Yes,
I can't remember.
you did.
I thought so.
You did.
Anyway, again, our opening session, we had Vice President Joe Biden, we had Jason Grummett, who is the founder and president of the Bipartisan Policy Center, Jerry Abramson, who serves as Deputy Assistant to the President and Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, and Michael Froman, the 11th United States Trade Representative. Those folks spoke with us. Then I went to a Rural Action Caucus business meeting after that, and I had workshops on integrity and civility management. Figure we can always use a little bit of integrity and civility, especially in our boardrooms. And then I went to a county transportation and infrastructure investments, and it really showed how putting money into infrastructure, roads, bridges, you know, even IT, really helps bring a county ahead, and it really showed one county against another, one county that spent the money and another county that didn't, and how the differences was, you know, how much more improved and how much more businesses showed up with the ones that spent the money for infrastructure, and they came out so much further ahead.
Yeah.
Then that evening, there was a LUC-RAC reception. LUC is the Large Urban County Caucus. RAC is the Rural Action Caucus, which our county and I'm part of. On the 24th, we had our general session, and on the general session we had speakers. Whereas Congressman Schuster, who is chairman of the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee. We had Representative Rob Bishop. Rob serves on the House Armed Services Committee and the House Rules Committee. And a Thomas Perez, and he's the 26th Secretary of Labor. David Gregory, who is moderator for NBC News Meet the Press, or has been, gave a very, you always have those press people, and it's just fun to listen to, because they give stories about talking to people in the past, and, you know, talking to the Bushes and talking to Clinton, and the different stories that come out, and it's always kind of fun. After that, like Drew had stated, we had our Hill meetings. We had met with Amy Klobuchar. We met with Franken's office, and it was, what was his name? Jake?
Jake.
Yeah, Jake. And then we met with Tim Walz, and it was, you know, it's always interesting. You know, they know we're involved. They know what issues need to be done here. Highway 14, Al was brought up to all of them.
They even knew Al's name.
Well,
Wow.
you know, when me and Al have been going out for, I've been going out with Al for the last 4 years for the transportation fly-in, and I know Al, you've been going out for years before that. So yeah, they know Al very well. Al's very well known around the state of Minnesota and nationally as an amazing engineer. So I appreciate your help, Al. And then we had our president's reception that evening, which is always another chance to rub shoulders with people and talk to people about different county issues.
I failed to go. I was actually exhausted because we were on the hill. We got up early that morning, and then The last meeting with Tim Walls, his office was what, 5:30 or so, and we got out of there at 6:30 or something. I got home close to 7 o'clock almost, 6:45 probably, I don't know.
Oh, and I do want to state, you know, when we were on the Hill, in between, we went into the Supreme Court building, and look at that tie that Drew's got on. Isn't that amazing?
Boy, did you get it there or what?
It almost looks like Vance.
I mean,
Vance's ties.
I have an effect on people.
Yeah.
Took it on
We're
loan.
going to get more red, white, and blue ties around here.
Well, in Washington too, they charge tax on clothing. So this was $31.95, and I had to pay like 34 something for it, I think. So.
Well, you were just helping them out a little bit.
Money
Drew.
well spent.
All right, let's see. Again, Wednesday morning, I did not go to the Minnesota breakfast like we normally do because we had a Rural Action Caucus meeting at the White House. Again, I had to be searched down, and then we had two meetings actually. We had one at 8:30 in the morning, another one at 10 o'clock that ran till noon. So the RAC is starting to do this instead of having their fly-ins. Evidently last time they had a fly-in, they had 13 people show up, so they figured that this is a lot better way to get things this done. And the next day I flew back. I want to say, on February 27th, it was Friday morning, I was at my house, and all of a sudden my wife says, "Look out the front window," and I was able to observe the Mankato Police Department and our own Blue Earth County Sheriff's Department perform a felony stop right in front of my house. There was a suspected stolen vehicle, and they, having some background in this, I watched, and there was textbook. And these officers, we have nothing but to be proud of the officers on our departments. They're just they safety conscious, not only for themselves and for the suspects, but also for all the public surrounding. We need to thank them for the job they do because trust me, Will and I will both tell you that it's not a lot of fun to pull your weapon, but when you have to, when it's needed, you have to be able to do it and do it safely and make sure that things are performed properly. But again, I know I sent out an email to Brad and Bob and the rest of you, but it's I really want to state that we have a lot to be proud of with our officers, and both with the Mankato Police Department and with the Blue Earth County Sheriff's Department.
Residential area like that is the toughest area
Yes.
there is to make a safe felony
Oh,
stop.
yeah, and you can't get much closer to my place because I had a front window seat. It was they were
not a big
blocking
yard either.
they were blocking my driveway with a squad car. That's how close it was. So it was like anyway. Pedal past poverty on the 28th, and I was very proud to be on the team with Mark and his bunch, and we did very well. And when you walk into that room, the first year I was able to do it because NACO was always took over, but this year I was able to do it. And you walk into that room at the YMCA, and it's packed, and you have all these teams, and there's such positive energy coming just to help a charity and help people in need. And God bless the people here in Mankato and the region, because they really get out and do a lot to try to help the folks that really need help.
And Sister Dorothy Olinger at 91.
There we go. Yeah, and that was in the paper. All right. And then yesterday I had my meeting with Bob for the agenda, and with that, I'm going to call a 10-minute break. But Al, would you like to come up and bring your cohort with you there?
Ryan.
Good morning.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Hi, Al.
a number of items this morning. They should be in your packets.
Yep.
First one on County 26. And this has to do with the section of road where we realigned the road on the north side of Eagle Lake.
It's that piece of road right by the, not far from the lake itself, right?
Yes. So, we had the old road, of course, built a new road on new alignment behind those houses. What this resolution does basically is vacate the right-of-way that we do not need any longer. That was adjacent to the lake.
Right, we talked about this.
Yes. There's a legally prescribed process for how you do this. First step is to, because it's adjacent to the lake, to notify the DNR. It doesn't require their permission, just that we notify them. We did that over 30 days ago and received no response. If the board passes this resolution, our next step would be to notify the landowners that are affected by the turnback. And if they object to the turnback, then the law provides they can appeal it to district court. I don't see that happening because they're all in favor of getting the easements and the right-of-way vacated.
All right, we got a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Either one.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's been passed.
Okay, and that's really good because as we're doing our right-of-way deals to acquire the new right-of-way, the old right-of-way, of course, was part of the consideration.
Then the landowners there too, there has to be work done there too, isn't there? I mean, they get a portion of that road, each one of them that has lots going down to the lake now. Instead of up to the road, it'll go down to the lake.
Yes.
So they have to have new legal descriptions somehow drawn up that are attached to their deeds and that sort of thing, I would assume, and I'm not sure about that process, but it's
This land is actually owned by those folks. This releases the highway easement from it.
Okay, yeah.
There is a Mankato to Madison Lake force main, sanitary sewer main that follows the old alignment, okay, and allows that easement stay in place for that force main.
Okay, yep.
So, all the utilities, in fact. There's also some communication lines there. But they're buried, they're down deep enough so that they won't be a problem for these folks. Okay, the next item is a resolution to acquire parkland, the Saddle Club parcel at the Indian Lake Conservation Area. And I provided a memo earlier that described the purchase and included a map, one area photo showing the entire Indian Lake Conservation Area.
That's a good map. Did you pass it around again?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Pass it around.
It's on your,
Is it on there?
It should be on your machine.
Mhm.
56.
It's easier to see it on there.
I like paper too.
It is easy to see.
I know it. And then another map shows just the corner of the Indian Lake Conservation Area and where that parcel is located.
Yeah.
It's right in the corner of County 90 and Indian Lake Road. The Mankato Saddle Club has used that as a arena for practicing for their horse events. However, they've outgrown it, so now they're using an arena at Lake Crystal where they have more parking spots. They've got a building. They still would like to use this for recreational horseback riding. We get requests for parkland for recreational horseback riding. The trail around the backside of Indian Lake Conservation Area is used by the horseback riders also. The true area here boards horses, so they in turn use that land. If we do not buy the land, it's likely to become a rural residential building site. It's zoned that way according to Mankato Township. The other thing is that we've got, for County 90, right behind the site, a holding pond. And there are stormwater pipes that come down the hill from 90, empty into that pond, that capture sediment before it can be released to Indian Lake, and that occasionally has to be cleaned out or the pipes repaired. Now we gain access to it by going down the bicycle trail, the paved bicycle trail, and then to the site. That's not a real good option because the heavy equipment is hard on the trail. So there would be three purposes. One is that it would preserve the natural setting of the park Another is that it would continue to be used by horseback recreational riders, and the third is that it provides us access to that land. I'll pass that sheet around too. The blue is the parcel.
So we own land pretty much on almost all four sides of that, in a sense.
Yeah, we own that whole block from Indian Lake to the Bluff, and then from the Township Road in the north to County 90 in the south,
Yeah,
with the exception of that Saddle Club parcel, and then there's one house.
because we have right-of-way right there too, right up to it.
Yes.
Is that correct, on 90?
Yeah.
And then also on Indian Lake Road? Is that, what's Indian Lake Road? Is that a township?
Township.
That's township, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Just helpful to see it's united.
All right, to have some discussion, we need a motion, second.
You know, a little more discussion if I could,
Go ahead.
Chair. We could apply for a grant, an outdoor recreation grant from the Minnesota DNR. It's a very tight timetable. The grants are due, applications are due on March 31st. The winners would be announced about June or July, and then funds would be available in July or October. The grant application requires a certified appraisal. It's going to be difficult to get an appraisal done that quickly, but we could try for that grant. The grant application would also require a resolution from the county board in a particular format. I worked on this weekend. I didn't have time to get that particular resolution to you. I could bring it to you in a couple weeks at your next board meeting. So the intent would be to apply for the grant, but I don't want to mislead you in thinking that we've got a real good chance of getting it. There's a lot of competition for that grant, and it'll be difficult to get the whole grant application done by that date. When we acquire right-of-way and parkland, we have a professional appraisal done that gives us a value. They have an asking amount, $65,000, and that gives us a way to work together and negotiate a common price. The county's tax value is $45,000. They're asking $65,000. It's not unusual for the county tax value to be lower than the marketplace. That's quite a spread, but there again, it's not unusual. We would go by our certified independent professional appraisal as our starting point. The owners, because of this grant, we could not buy the land until the grant is approved. They won't reimburse you for expenses before the grant is approved. So with the grant, Saddle Club would have to hold the land available to us until the awards are made. If we get the money, then we can proceed with the agreement and use that grant. If we don't get the money, then we would pursue the purchase then. The realtors indicated they're open to waiting for that period.
They are?
Yeah,
Okay.
because they would prefer that it remain parkland and be available for horseback recreational use also.
Okay. Well, I know that when I first looked at this and heard it from you about it too, the first thing that went through my mind was that piece of parkland that we acquired a couple years ago out past the Red Jacket Trail.
Yeah.
And that landowner, it was a lot of ravine land and a little bit of bluff land.
Right.
And they didn't really want to put it on the market, I don't believe.
No.
And possibly could have gotten more for it. And so they approached us, and we were able to get some parkland money for that too, I believe, didn't we, Al?
What's for the, is that the Reynolds, was it, the property?
It was right
Was it Reynolds?
across the river from the Red Jacket Trail
Yeah.
Park.
Yes.
It's kind of a remote parkland.
Yes.
We went ahead and bought it.
And we got for a fraction of.
Yeah, what it was worth, I think, or what they could have gotten for it.
They can also, for tax purposes, work with their tax attorney and accountant, and part of that was seen as a donation
Oh, it was?
and use it for tax purposes.
Oh, I see.
The Saddle Club may be able to do that.
I know, I was just wondering if they would look at any of that at all, because I'm just thinking that that philosophy is nice, to be able to pick up some land that's attached or nearby or attached to our parkland.
Yes.
But, you know, I don't know how to progress. It's already brought here as an action item. With the way it's situated now, you know, I mean, it's like there's not quite enough information yet. That's just the way I feel. I don't know, but do you think it's necessary that we take action today on this, Al, or do you think?
I think the owners, if we don't take action, will pursue selling it as a residence.
Oh, I see.
Sure.
Okay.
That's what the way they listed it, and that's when we became aware of it, was they were
Yeah.
advertising it for
They're
sale.
thinking- oh, they are?
As a rural residence.
Oh, okay.
Yes, there's a realtor sign on the parcel.
Oh,
They've got a realtor hired to sell it.
Okay. I gotcha.
All right. Do
My,
we
you
have
know,
a-
my recommendation would be that we go ahead with this. I see those three purposes: preserving the natural setting of the park, providing an opportunity, continued opportunity for the recreational horseback riders, provides access to us, to our holding pond. As far as the price, we'll get an appraisal, we would negotiate a price. That's how we acquire all of our right-of-way. As far as the grant, I think we should apply for the grant, and hopefully we can get this appraisal done. If we get the money, great. If we don't, you know, we wouldn't have that 50% matching grant to apply towards it. But in any case, I think I would recommend pursuing this.
All right. Now, do we have a motion?
So what would the motion be? That's the
There's
question.
a sample resolution here that authorizes the county engineer to negotiate and purchase the parcel and apply for a Minnesota DNR grant to assist with the purchase of the parcel.
That's page 50.
I got it.
Do you see that?
53? Yeah, I got it right here. I think, I know, what do you guys think? Well, we can move ahead with approving.
You get it on the
I can make
table
it
for
Get it on the-
discussion.
I'll
Discussion,
move
we
it.
better Move it forward so we can talk.
I'll move it to get
Okay,
it on the
second.
floor.
All right. Now, questions.
Was it second? Was it second?
It was second over here.
Yeah, second.
Well, the reason why we have to move so fast, Al, is because of the grant. I mean, if we weren't looking at the grant, we could almost table this for 2 weeks if we wanted, to look into it deeper, we're gonna use our own cash funds to pay for it.
Right.
The reason why it's on the fast track is the grant.
It's two things. They want to sell it. You know, it's their property, they can do what they want with it.
Sure.
They may choose to sell it to a residential use rather than keep it as parkland. That's their discretion.
Right.
They're holding it open for us at this point. You know, how long they would do that. But it's out of consideration for their desire to sell
I
it.
understand.
And then the other one is the grant being due March 31st. Yeah.
Right. Do you feel you can get a lower price?
Yes, I don't know how much lower, but somewhat lower.
My understanding is the county assessment value is about $20,000 lower than what they're asking.
Right.
Okay. There's a couple things here, I mean, obviously, if it went into housing, we'd be getting levy and
Right.
tax, you know, so, which would help the rest of the county out. So it's, we have to kind of weigh as what do we want more parkland or as much parkland, because it wouldn't really, I mean, I think people would kind of look at this kind of like just a continuation of land that's already there. Or do we allow somebody to put up some housing and receive the taxes that would come from that?
Right.
You know, when I first heard this, I was thinking, well, that's just right down the road from our community farm, and maybe there's an area that we could put another acre of a garden in.
Right.
That, of course, would be a considerable amount of work, because we would have to
Get
water and doing everything. Like me and Will spent the last 3 years on the community farm, so there's, you know, but there's you know, there's some ideas, but you know, we have to weigh the ability to have, you know, the parkland over taxes and the helping the county out that way. So I guess I'm going to kind of, you know, leave it up. I'm kind of on the fence here. I'm not sure if we need more parkland. Blue Earth County certainly has its fair share of parkland compared to other counties in the state of Minnesota. But I'm also one that looks at that area and saying, well, I'd like to keep it natural, because I think that's a gorgeous, gorgeous area down there at the and keep that more natural than having housing built on it.
I guess I'm kind of at the point that you are. I was kind of
kind of on the fence too. And then Al mentioned a thing about the folks using it for horseback riding and stuff, and that's something that I've had a lot of folks lobby for through the years with me, that they would like to have an area where they could do the horseback riding and stuff. And I guess as I look at it, that would probably be a very simple way for us to provide that service for those folks that are interested in that. So.
Well, another part is that anybody can use it then.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have to be just people that are there with their,
no.
that are part of the Saddle Club. Anybody could bring their horse down and use it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's a
public
definite,
land.
that'd be a plus.
Yeah,
That's
so
correct.
that kind of, you know, I hadn't even thought of that aspect until you mentioned it, but that is something that the folks that enjoy the horse sports have talked about for a long time, is having an area. So that would give us something we don't have.
I'll just speak that, yeah, I had the reservations beginning, but I actually think, and I've had the Saddle Club president talk with me, but there are a number of horse farms or barns in the area with horse owners that have horses there that utilize it, and they still would, and of course they have their place in Lake Crystal, and that's because there's another they took over a place that there's more than one Saddle Club, I think, at one time, but I think it would be a good use, and it would fit with the park. Obviously, it's been used before till this point yet, so it still is. So
It's been a Saddle Club for many years,
yeah.
hasn't it? I mean,
So and like I say, there are a
long
number of people in that area, but
Yeah.
that utilize it, and with the trail, and of course other people do too. Then
It's a wonderful trail right there
Yeah.
next to it, you know, it's
yeah.
beautiful.
So
Kip, what are your thoughts?
I don't know if it.
I'd rather see a house built there and get tax revenues off of it, but I can see the stars lining here.
Well, you know, no,
Don't be so sure.
I'm
I'm leaning towards your spot too.
We got a lot of parkland. It'd be nice for the access more or less than everything. It'd be nice if we had a little more time to work on and get the grant.
Yeah.
That's what I
Again, we
think,
have lots
too.
of parkland already,
Yeah.
and I just think we're positioned pretty well for our parks and whatnot. You know, and it still might not sell. We certainly can still move forward with it, but to fast pace it, I think is just kind of.
Well, I got a question too, just looking at the resolution. What would the difference be? You know, it says, therefore, the county engineer is authorized to negotiate and purchase the parcel and apply for an MDR grant to assist with the purchase of the parcel, and in the event the grant is awarded, blah, 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 execute. What would happen if you just said, therefore, the county engineer is authorized to negotiate the purchase of the parcel, or just even negotiate the potential of purchasing the parcel, applying for the Minnesota grant and all that kind of stuff, but not to actually say purchase, and just wait 2 weeks and see how things are going, or wait 4 weeks or whatever, and see if they're willing to hold off a little while till we get this thing going. But he does everything else and then brings it back to the board.
The only thing that, in listening to Al, is the only thing I can see where that might not
They
go,
might sell it.
is they might say, well, we don't want to mess with that, and we're going to put it up for sale. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to sell.
Well, it's already been up for sale.
Yeah, it's already been up for sale.
So it's like, okay, but I would like to be able to have you negotiate it and then bring it back and decide and have us say yes or no. I mean, I certainly don't want to pay the asking price, and if in fact you know, they don't want to negotiate, maybe I'll lean towards Kip's side and say, let's, you know, then sell it to somebody and build a house.
Yeah.
But I also have somebody that tells me that he walks his dog around there and he likes to, you know, have that area that
Free of, yeah.
and his dog goes jumping in the lake and enjoys himself, and not having a housing there that would, you know, not that it would stop that, but you know, we all know that you know, when we're out in the nature, we like to have nature. I mean,
The parcel's far enough, it's got a little bluff of trees, a house, I mean, it makes someone a really nice house that wants to park in their backyard.
Oh, I know.
I
There's
wouldn't
no
be
doubt
interested
about
in
that.
that. I mean,
But you got the trail going right by there too.
you got
for
the trail on the
bicycles,
highway, so you got.
It's all
I
right
mean, it's-
there.
I'm really on the fence here. I'm
As far as the parks plan, it'd be nice if we had more maybe of a parks plan, but it's obvious that if that was open before, we probably would have had it already, because I think we got right away right there, we've got the parkland wraps around all three sides. And, it's just 2.5 acres basically. And, we've got some water holding ponds that go right up next to the property, don't we? We got for runoff that come right up next to the property, which we manage. And so it makes sense, it'd be, if we can acquire it without too much complications, it makes sense that we would have it, I would think. But,
I'm wondering if we could put an amendment on there to negotiate and then bring it back to the council or the board.
I'd be more interested if there wasn't another house built on that parcel already too. We've already got one.
there's one right over there across. over
Which
the
I think
way.
Al has an interesting story behind that parcel.
Yeah, I know.
So that's kind of my thoughts, but.
You brought up something interesting, Will. We try to set aside lands though for recreation in our county. I mean, you're looking at philosophically, what do we do with our parks? We got some for hiking, biking. I mean, I don't know if we have anything for four-wheelers. They've been requesting, wanting to have some areas to four-wheel in our county. I know that this sounds crazy, but Minnesota at one time, I don't know if they still are, have more horses in our state than almost any state in the union.
Hennepin County, I think, still has per capita has more horses than any other county.
It's amazing. People don't realize how many horses there are in this state. But I mean, I can see we're providing, I don't think we have one park even that's really set up for horses, do we? We don't have one in this county?
This is the only one that gets much horse use on
Yeah.
gravel walking
So I
trail.
could see where that would be a benefit, public benefit for the common good.
This is an opportunity for us to have a relatively small investment
Yeah, small
to
investment.
establish
It really
this.
is.
I mean, with the existing trails
Yeah.
and that type of thing, it wouldn't take much. So-
Would they
I
help
think if we want to
maintain?
move, forward, I think is what I would like to see us do is maybe not focus so hard on the grant, because the grant, let's face it, it's going to be pretty hard to
It's
get.
sketchy.
Let's not fast track this,
Yeah.
spend more money on appraisal, spend more money on staff, spend,
Yeah.
it's going to cost us more money. The faster you make this thing move, the
Yeah,
more
it's gonna
excited
cost
you are
more.
about buying it. The faster you negotiate, it's going to cost us more money at the end of the day. It's a small enough price that if we want to move forward, let's not hinge the decision on
probably
the
right.
grant.
You're right.
You're probably right, Kevin.
That's a very
Back
good
up a
point.
little bit, say, if it's worth it, it's worth it, we'll buy it and pay cash for it, or it ain't worth it. So I think, again,
Yeah.
I don't have any strong feelings either way, but
Yeah.
I think the fast track, it just is complicated thing.
Yeah.
and
That's
makes
a very good point, very good point.
more
All right.
expensive at the end of
I
the
think,
day.
I think I can see the whole
That makes
board, I think
sense.
is board or has the feeling that, we could proceed, but we don't need to be, fast track on
And
it.
so I think by passing the resolution, if we could take out the fact that he can buy it, he can negotiate, work forward, and then bring it back with a price. So we're not deciding on a price today, and we can't hardly negotiate a price in an open public meeting.
Pretty hard.
We kind of lose our
Yeah.
edge. So I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but it's, it's hard to
If you
negotiate.
knock
with
$1,000
going forward.
off, I think we ought to get it. No, I'm teasing.
Well, let's,
Just some thoughts. I mean,
No, I know.
it's hard to buy.
That was humor, by the
You're gonna
way.
need an amendment
To the, motion.
to the motion.
you want to give that amendment?
Kip probably would be more appropriate.
Kip wanted-
He
I'm
just
trying to
described
find
it.
it.
I'm trying to find the.
You could just say authorize to negotiate the purchase
Just everything
price.
except the purchase, I think, is all we do. I mean, you can still move forward with the grant, keep that
Yeah.
in there. If you can't get it done, you can't get it done, but. Which page is that on?
53.
53.
That last paragraph is probably all that needs to be. One word or two.
Yeah, if you just strike everything after negotiate.
Yeah,
Yep.
because you don't,
To negotiate and apply for the Minnesota grant or whatever.
negotiate.
Well, basically, with this process, we would be saying
We're
there's
getting
no
the grant.
grant for this
I-
year
Well,
annual cycle.
and
which is
applying
fine
for
with
the
me.
grant, that's just a gimme,
Yeah.
We don't have to put that in the,
If you can, you can. I just think to be fast tracking this for that reason is just,
Yeah.
Not,
But you
Probably
can still
not.
apply for the grant.
if he wants, yeah. But it depends on what staff time it takes, how much
No,
work it
that's
takes.
true.
you know.
Will it take a lot of time, Brian, do you think? You'll be the one writing it?
I'm unfamiliar with the grant
Are you?
application.
Oh, okay.
We've used these grants several times in the past, so I'm very familiar with it.
Boilerplate.
And there is a fair amount of time in putting the grant together, but also you need to have this certified appraisal, which is going to be difficult to get by
I
that
That might
date.
cost you more. If you want to fast track that, that's
Yeah.
gonna cost you.
Yeah, that'd take too long.
Our standard way of acquiring land for
Yeah.
parks or highways is to have a professional appraisal done,
Yep,
and that's our number. And then they may have their own appraisal done,
yeah,
which they've done in an informal way, the realtor has done for them. And then you sit down and you say, okay, what things did our appraisal miss that are of value to you? And you negotiate a value in between.
yeah,
So that's our standard way of acquiring right of way. I'm not a real estate expert. We get an appraisal from a professional certified appraiser.
yeah.
That's our number. They have their number from their appraisal. And then we look at each other's appraisals and work towards something in the middle.
And the one thing we haven't really talked about, but we did touch on it, but we didn't explore it, is that then the agreement would be basically, at least between us right here today, if we purchased it, that we would still have it available for use for horses then, is that correct, for people that have horses? I mean, is that part of the agreement? Would they help maintain anything? Would they do anything as a club? You know, I don't know, I'm just asking if that's,
I think, I don't think it would be wise to restrict it to being used
Yeah.
for horses
Okay.
only.
So-
It would be general parkland that we.
It would
so if it
fill-
doesn't get used much, we could just make it, let it go back to prairie or whatever you want.
It would fill then that block, that
It'd fill it in.
parcel, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
more complete park, and then,
Yeah.
of course, horse riders will use it as well as other people.
yeah,
All you really need is a
Mr.
parking lot.
Place to
and
park.
Yep.
trails.
yeah.
We have a parking lot, and
parking lot
actually, a
just
few
goes
years
the
ago, we
trail going
constructed
to
a
it.
trail from the
Yeah.
parking lot over to this horse riding arena.
Oh, okay,
So it could still be used for that.
Yeah, we have a county parking lot already, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's got a nice connection to parcels.
No, it does.
And I'd
it
be
does.
more interested in it, for the right of way, so we don't have to wreck the trail to get back there and do our work. So there's a lot of benefit to owning
Yeah.
it, but we can weigh that when we get the appraisal.
Yep.
Yeah.
My understanding with the amendment is to take out purchase and apply for the DNR grant. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, does somebody want to second that amendment?
I'll second it.
All right.
I'll move it.
Let's move, I'm going to ask a motion on the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right. Then I'm gonna,
Now the amendment.
now I'm gonna ask a motion or a vote on the amendment.
As amended. Motion as amended.
As amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed. There you go.
Okay, so my understanding is that we'll procure an appraisal from a local certified independent appraiser, and then we will negotiate with the landowner, and I would bring a price to you at a future meeting. This would probably be a month or two.
Okay,
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
okay. Go ahead.
Sounds good.
Next item, County Road 147 Local Bridge Replacement Program Grant Resolution. We passed one earlier in a format that was appropriate for the state using bonds. The state has decided they're going to use cash instead. And so it requires a new resolution of a slightly different format, but it's the same amount of money.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed.
Now, that, we have our core permit, we've got a contract with Kramer to build it. At our other bridges, where we have major bridges on major rivers, we have canoe landings. They fish at this location. So what we'd like to do is have a little parking lot. There would be a place to have a historic sign. This is not a big thing, it's on the order of a half acre, something of that sort. Gravel parking lot we build with our own crew. We've met with the Amboy Citizens Group, and they've indicated which corner they think would be the best place to have this little canoe landing. It's on the Blue Earth River Trail System, Minnesota River Trail System. So I think it would get use, but it would need to come back to you for a resolution to acquire. In fact, they may donate that
Yeah.
land.
Is it across from the town side to the west side on the right side of the road?
Yes.
Is that where, okay. 'Cause I remember way back when we were looking at that was a site that somebody had brought up, that possibly they would
Yep.
either take little money or maybe donate, you know?
Yeah, that's been talked about for quite a while. The landowner's been very supportive of their project there, so although I don't know that he would
Right.
consider a donation, he might at least consider a reduced
Right,
price. so.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the Minnesota River Trail System. It's
Yes.
Canoe Waterway.
Yeah.
It's listed that it was just passed probably, I don't know, 4 years ago
Yep.
by the state legislature, right? So it's on, the Blue River there. It is.
Mhm.
So it's kind of nice.
So you got some informational items for us here?
Yes. The MS4 stormwater mandate. Now that Blue Earth County has graduated to a metropolitan area, we have more requirements. The Maple was the first one. That cost us a couple $100,000. But we will reap huge benefits in the future, I don't doubt. Another one is the MS4 Minnesota Pollution Control requirements. Application for authorization to discharge stormwater under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, State Disposal System, General Stormwater Permit for small municipal separate storm sewer systems. And we don't really have a choice with this. The law requires that we proceed with this permit. It requires that every agency within the Mankato urban boundary do an MS4 permit. Mankato has had that for some years because of its size. But now, Blue Earth County, because of our road system within that area, Nicollet County with their road system, North Mankato, the townships, MSU, the community college, all have to have this permit. From a high altitude, the requirement is that we're responsible for stormwater draining onto our road right-of-way. And we're responsible for the quality of the stormwater leaving our right-of-way at every pipe and at every outlet. This is implemented through a very complex permit system. And if you look at Part 2 application and just hit some of the highlights, description of regulatory mechanisms, illicit discharges, partnerships, construction site stormwater runoff control, post-construction stormwater management, site plan review, conditions for post-construction stormwater management, stormwater management limitations and exceptions, mitigation provisions, long-term maintenance of structural stormwater, BMPs, best management practices, storm sewer system map and inventory, storm sewer system map, pond, wetland, and lake inventory, minimum control measures, MCMs, public education and outreach, public participation and involvement, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site stormwater runoff control, post-construction stormwater management, pollution prevention / good housekeeping for municipal operations, compliance schedule for total maximum daily load, TMDL, applicable waste load allocation, alum or ferric chloride phosphorus treatment systems. And I just read those headings to show that this is a very complex, burdensome permitting system that we're required to enter into. We have 18 months, about a year and a half, to develop all of this. One option that we're pursuing, and I've mentioned this before too, is to do it in partnership with all the other agencies involved here, rather than have every township and every city and every county do this on their own. Mankato has already done it for the city of Mankato. They've developed all this information. We could partner with them, enter into a contract, an agreement with them, where they would take care of it for our lands, for our right-of-way. It would be much more efficient. We've had a couple meetings. We'll be working towards a draft agreement, and then I would bring that to you in a future meeting. I guess what I'm looking for here is consensus that that's a reasonable way to approach this, rather than go out on our own and develop our own MS4 permit.
The only concern I have is that the city of Mankato only occupies a very small piece of our county.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering what the benefits would be. I'm just trying to figure out what that would be, because inside the city limits where we've got all of the hard surfaces and runoff, and they have no space almost for holding or for treating water. Most of it goes directly into the river. I'm just wondering, you know, what benefit that would be for the county when we're concerned about the water runoff of our rural road system that we have. And I don't know, I'm just trying to see how that fits. We have an SWCD office that works on water quality issues and looks at erosion, soil, and that sort of thing.
I'm sorry.
No, so I'm just wondering what, I don't know what the benefit is when we're, it's such a small little, I mean, it's a dot on our
This
county.
applies only to the Mankato urban area.
Okay.
There's a boundary
So we don't have to
around.
go the whole county then?
No.
Just because we're in the
No.
MS4 region doesn't mean we have to do our whole county?
There's a boundary around the Mankato area.
I gotcha.
It's the same boundary as for the Mankato Area Planning
Makes
Organization
sense.
for transportation.
Okay.
Of our 720 miles, we've got about 180 miles of road that are inside that boundary.
Okay. So it only pertains to within the boundaries of the MS4?
Yeah.
MSAs.
Not the lands that connect that and that sort of
Yeah.
thing?
And you know, really, the bureaucracy for this, the regulatory burden is very complex and large, but in reality, from a practical standpoint, very little development will take place on our right-of-way. We don't let people build houses on our highway right-of-way.
Right.
So we don't have to regulate people building a house, and do they have their silt fence up, and are they controlling the sediment leaving their house?
But going forward, we might have to if they do improvements on their properties that are along our roads.
Yeah,
You know.
and what happens is that as development takes place in Mankato, they need to be annexed
Okay.
before they can get urban utilities.
Sure.
And once they're annexed, then that development is under Mankato's
Right,
ordinance.
right. Yeah.
This is Mankato's ordinance.
Plus, they already have an urban fringe agreements, don't we, in place?
Yes.
Which is also probably encompasses most of those areas.
They do it for Lang Township, and they have annexation agreements with Mankato Township and perhaps South Bend Township.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it makes sense if
It does.
if they're doing it and it covers the same area.
Yeah.
Seems appropriate that we would partner with them.
Well,
Mark, you
it's just the staff from them is, that we have with MAPOs, partly
Yeah.
would be the same people that
It's
would.
the same people,
Yeah. We're
plus,
good.
plus MSU and the community
Mhm.
college.
Yep, and using MSU and,
Okay.
and the South
I,
Central.
You know, and when I look at this, I'll be watching very closely that the city of Mankato do our area in the simplest, cheapest way possible, and also that the enforcement is reasonable. You know, we don't want to chase people down who are walking their dogs in our ditches, and are you picking up? Or if they're raking their lawn, are they raking any grass clippings into our highway ditch? Or when we mow our ditches, do we have to pick up the grass clippings from the ditch? You know, there needs to be a simple system, it needs to be economical, and enforcement needs to be reasonable.
Well, I think you got a consensus,
Yeah.
but maybe we should continue on here so we can get our...
This is going to cost us money over time. It's a multi-$1,000 mandate.
What doesn't?
Yeah. As I work
You're
with
so happy about it.
As I work with Mankato, my argument is going to be, we do your bridge inspection, which is also quite a burdensome system, because we have certified bridge inspectors, we maintain the records. Let's do a swap.
All right.
We don't charge them for that at this point?
We haven't, no.
Oh,
No.
So
what a deal.
That would be a good,
We got some good negotiations.
good item to bring up, yes.
So,
Now, who sits on the intergov committee then?
Well, this is,
Bob and Vance that is on that too?
Kip.
Yep.
And Kim, okay, yep.
What's your next thing?
oh, I could go on about MS4 for a long time if you like. but we- Okay. Legislative status, and I think you folks are very up on the legislative items. We do need funds for maintaining, preserving safety improvements for the growth that we're seeing in the Mankato area. We do need local bridge bonding. We've got several projects that depend on that. And the Section 404 assumption is a major item, all of which we've talked about in the past. I don't know where you're at schedule-wise. I've got the construction projects.
Well, we have we still have all our administrative
We have some
services
time.
things to do
We got
too.
time here.
Yeah, we got time.
But go ahead,
Okay, let me hit some high points then.
hit some high points.
Unless you have any questions on legislative status items, I can move on to the projects.
You go ahead.
Well, the 404 we talked about too quite a bit already. I mean, we've,
Yeah.
That's what he said.
AMC and NACO, everybody's on board.
I'll be making a presentation tomorrow afternoon at the AMC Hot Topics in the afternoon.
Okay.
I was asked to testify at a committee meeting tomorrow morning, but with the weather and other commitments, I didn't feel I had the time to do that. Okay, number one, from Trunk Highway 30 to Good Thunder, we're doing design, we're acquiring permits, we're acquiring right-of-way. That's our first major project out this year. It looks like that's proceeding nicely. CASA 1, Old Trunk Highway 66, we're working on design and a right-of-way plat, monumentation, working towards construction in 2016. County 12, number 5, from County 17 to Trunk Highway 83, we're working on right-of-way acquisition. We've got letters out to folks. You may be getting questions from folks. Surveys and borings. We're still waiting for this local road improvement grant application to come through. I've had some discussions with the city of Mankato on Hoffman Road. They will be building this summer Hoffman Road from Highway 22 over about halfway to the County 12 project. And then they stop.
Halfway to Carver.
Yeah, about halfway to Carver. Then they stop, build a roundabout, and head south to the new school.
Okay.
We will be building over here, number 12. It would make sense when we build number 12 to design and have a roundabout and connect to Hoffman, is our construction project. The city can't provide funds for that right now because it's not in the city limits. However, I think they're open to having an agreement where we would build it and then they would pay us when it becomes inside the city limits. A deferred payment kind of a thing. I'm just tossing that idea out for reaction.
Make sure they're okay with that idea.
We would need a written agreement signed by the county board and by the city. We've done things of that sort in the past.
Yep.
Yeah,
And they've
Well, it
always
makes
paid us
sense to
back.
get the connection.
yep, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we
does.
have to have the connection. It's just that
It does.
I want to make sure the city of Mankato
Yes.
is treated fairly in this,
Yes.
in doing that they pay us what
Yeah.
they have to.
I've noticed that everybody's always in favor of fair. It's just
It's,
Yeah.
it's what your idea of fair is, yes.
Fair is a big-
Define that, yes.
Okay, I'll continue to work with the city on that idea.
And we've always worked closely with the city.
Yes,
They've been
we have.
close partners.
Yes.
They were close partners with the roundabouts at 22 in Madison, and
Yep.
and I can't see issues.
I think we're one of the most successful regions in the state in working with transportation projects between their cities and the county.
You know, we had some very close partnerships with the city of Mankato and with MnDOT,
Yes.
and I think that's shown with what we've been able to accomplish.
Okay, the County 60 Stadium Road mill and overlay from Stolzman to Victory. We'll have to mill it, overlay it, or it's called an inlay actually. There are some curb and gutter sections that need to be replaced. We're looking at the striping plan, the traffic plan. The city would like to have a bicycle lane striped on the shoulder. The law requires that we have ADA improvements at the sidewalks, so we have the proper ramps and the cast iron domes. So we're developing that plan. We're almost through with it. We'll be sitting down with Mankato next week, putting together a joint plan there and be able to move ahead with that. County 90,
I have a question on that.
yeah,
There's a trail on both sides of that road though, isn't there, Al?
sidewalk or trail.
Yeah. I mean, do they really feel it's necessary then that for sure there's a bike lane on that road that's very busy?
It's part of the city's complete street. I don't know
Yeah.
if you read about that initiative.
Yeah, I know that. There were funds at one time for people who ascribed to the complete street concept. I don't know if that's still available, but I'm just questioning whether or not you need to have a bike lane on a very busy road when you have both sides of the roads with trails. I'm just questioning it.
Is it trails or sidewalks?
One's a trail, one's a sidewalk, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just throwing it out there.
No, I have the same question.
Yeah, I mean, but because it can create a a dangerous environment.
Is that part of the
Having
initiative?
bicycles there.
Yeah, is that part of the initiative, I think, of the, what do you call it? Yeah, Complete Streets with, the bike policy and the Mankato and then our MAPO. I mean, that's a big push, yeah.
Yeah.
We've typically deferred to the city on our roads inside the city limits.
No, I know.
We've always said you gotta have a sidewalk or a trail on our major roads in urban areas. But beyond that, we've deferred quite well to what
That's
their
fine. I just
local
wonder if it came up at all.
preferences are.
I just wonder if it came up. 'cause
Well, I had the same concern, actually.
Cause I'll tell you, if
Some
you
of
ever
us
drive by
do.
there in the afternoon, how busy that is. It's
Some of us
unbelievable.
do, yeah, but,
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
Unbelievable.
One thing I feel very strongly about is the pedestrian safety island between Ellis and Warren.
Okay.
You know, there were fatal pedestrian crashes there years ago. Since we put in the signal lights and put in that pedestrian refuge,
Mm-hmm.
it's gone quite smoothly. I don't think that pedestrian refuge safety island should be removed.
On campus.
Yes, right
yeah, on the
campus.
campus part.
That was a mother and a daughter, I believe.
Yeah,
Very sad.
in the rain, yep.
Boy.
Well, they're not, are they talking about taking that out?
Well, the
do
idea
this?
came up that if you carry these bike lanes through that
Mhm.
area, you need the extra width, which would take out the island, and I'm saying, no, you can't take the island out.
No. No. Do you need that?
Yeah.
You need a resolution? No.
No.
Yeah, if you do, let me know. Let us
Yeah,
know.
if it comes to that.
All right.
I don't think it will.
I think they had some problems with lighting there too at the time, too, didn't they? When that
Yes.
accident happened. It was
Yes.
very
There's
dark.
still some talk, I haven't heard anything formal, but some lighting there with, where the Quick Trip there on, with Stadium and
Okay,
Monks.
sure.
Yeah, but they have to.
So then we have several bridges that will be ready to go. 3 on County 5, 1 on County 52, which is a bridge with beams, 3 big box culverts, 1 on County Road 111, 2 on County Road 144, old deteriorated structures that need to be replaced. They all require bridge bonding. So when we talk to our legislators, the bridge bonding is a very important item. It needs to be large enough so that when the metro area takes out their earmarked projects, there's money left for the rest of the state.
And that's one thing that we expressed to all our legislators and stuff when we went there, saying, we understand that the metro has some huge bridges and that they, but separate them from the rest of rural Minnesota, because
Right.
it really hurts us when they have one bridge bonding and then
Yeah, eat it up.
75% of it's taken from that, for a couple bridges in the metro. Separate the metro bridges, which are gonna be huge bridges, and we all understand that,
Yep.
from our rural bridges,
Yep.
which we definitely need to farm to market roads, and because it's as important to us as it is to them, but they
They take all the money.
Yep.
Because they're so huge.
You mean do the planning so that
They take
set
all the
aside
money
funds
because they're so
special
huge.
For rural.
but that's something that they need to figure out up at the Capitol.
Very well put. Perfect.
Thank you. Otherwise, how you doing? Are we done?
We're done.
I had
All
one
right.
comment, one question. I just noticed in the bills too, that I think there's another $15,000 for salt, for our roads and things. And I know that it's expensive. But I was just wondering at some point if we could still do a little research and find out where it's at today, what the cost might be to do some sort of a blended road covering for ice, ice and, what do you
Yeah.
call it, for ice and snow on the roads. And I know that there's other states that are trying different things. There's products that come from corn, there's products that come from, they put liquid salt water from way over in Wisconsin on the roads. There's all these different things. And I just wonder if we could look at that sometime, because after
Yes.
reading a lot more articles, I found out that our bridges, the life of bridges are actually reduced if it's on a road that receives salt.
Yep.
Not necessarily the gravel roads, but the paved roads.
Yep.
It works its way down into the infrastructure of the bridge and shortens the life of the bridge.
Yep.
And if there's some kind of a plan we could come up with that might be a little bit more healthier just for the environment and for, I know it could cost us more money, but I don't know in today's dollars they're doing so much work in that area if it's gonna cost that much more.
I will get some costs of these alternative materials
Okay.
and bring them to you in a future board meeting.
Well, that'd be great.
Yep. There's quite a bit of research done on this. This MS4 requirement, it doesn't have now, but you can see where it's heading towards having chloride restrictions,
Yeah,
which would restrict the use of salt.
yeah.
During one of my meetings on transportation at for the NACO, there was a engineer from Iowa who spoke on some amazing different ways of building bridges on the cheap.
Oh, yeah.
And
Tell me about
it
it.
was, I mean, talking about using railroad cars and talking about using wood. Of course, you can't have the wood trusses in the water, but if they're above water, they'll last thousands of years, as they've proven in England and stuff like that. I mean, they don't, you know, it's wood rots when it's in water, but when it's above the, you know. So, I mean, this commissioner, and I've got his name at home. I talked to him afterwards. Like I said, he had some amazing different ways of building. I asked him, I said, so how do you put a railroad car as a bridge? You know, what's the
That was
the payload?
question.
And he said, well, they put the tanks on these railroad cars to bring them from one place to another. He says, I think we can drive semis over them. He says, and these tanks are going to be a little bit heavier than a loaded an armored tank, you know. So, you know, I'm going, okay. He says, yeah, 10-ton. He says, that doesn't even start to show what these bridges will hold, because they're well over 10-ton.
Yeah.
And but of course, you have to weld them together, and you have to, you know. But he was putting bridges together on the cheap, and it was amazing what he was doing, and the cost of saving the county hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm sure you've seen those presentations and stuff, but I would ask if you'd kind of look into that and say, you know, can we do? I mean, these are bridges kind of like what we have. We're talking going across streams. We're talking, you know,
Yeah, not big rivers or anything.
No, I mean, that's exactly what he was talking about. And he said he did like 280 some bridges in his county. So I don't know where in Iowa that was, but that was, you know, but just an idea.
Yeah, using railroad flat cars, surplus.
Yep.
Old railroad flat cars.
Yep.
We've had a number of timber bridges over the years. There was a period back in the 50s, 60s, when it was common to build timber bridges, timber piling, timber pier caps, timber decks, timber railing. They have rotted out.
No, even I mean, and he showed some of the timber stuff that he had that was above. I mean, you know, like the arches and stuff, but they were above the water level. He says if you have them on the water level or whatever, it's going to be, you know, they're going to rot. Now, I would imagine even on the roads it's going to rot because of all the salt and stuff that we use.
Treated timber, in the old days they used old growth, Douglas fir, heavily creosoted treated timber. The railroads used that, the earlier timber bridges used that, and that did last a long time. Timber, even if it's not treated, that's always below the water, will not rot. Timber that's always above the water typically does not rot. When it's in and out, it does.
That's when it rots, yeah.
Yeah, and it's often fungus, which needs moisture, heat, and food. So you can keep the moisture and the oxygen away by always having it under, and keep the moisture away by always having it out, and it dries out. But we've had nothing but short lives from our timber bridges that we had, and a number of them were built in those days. They used to be cheaper than a concrete or steel bridge. Now they're the same price.
Yeah.
So when you got with your supply of wood.
Unless there's a real aesthetic advantage to using timber bridges, they don't really make sense anymore. The railroad flat cars, I think that can work. You still need to spend the money on the piling and the abutments to hold the ends up, and that's typically a good part of the bridge cost. The railroad flat cars, though, if they were available and at a reasonable price, could be joined together and made wide enough. We need fairly wide bridges because of the big farm equipment out there, but yeah, that's an option.
Well, I apologize to bring that up, but I just,
Oh,
you know,
no, it's interesting.
That's the type of things that when we go to these conferences, you find out, just like 3 years ago when Will and I went out to Oregon and found something out about the community farm, and those are the kind of things you know, it doesn't help Blue Earth County out to send us if we don't come back with something. So it's always interesting. But we really have to continue on, but thank you very much, Al.
I was on a scanning tour, state-sponsored, for bridge types in New York, out east, Iowa, Washington, and we looked at all the different kinds of bridges people are building. We've tried some of those concepts ourselves with the steel sheet pile abutments and the precast concrete box beams and so on, the open beam railings, and we've kept a couple of the ideas that worked from an economic and long-term and aesthetic standpoint, and set the rest of them aside. So, all good ideas. Things to look at.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks,
Al.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
I think we jump to administrative services there, Bob.
How you doing?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, first item is the county board minutes for February 17th.
Move minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? That's passed.
Next up then would be the bills for the 2 weeks listed.
I'll move the bills.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
I had just a couple. I was just curious, I haven't seen them before on the bills, but does AM1 Incorporated contracted services for $3,300? Maybe it's a prepayment for early, or maybe they do other work during the wintertime, I don't know. AM Lawn, L-A-W-N.
They're actually doing snow removal up at the Justice Center.
Oh, okay. So they're not just working on lawns?
Nope.
Just this time of year it seemed unusual. And then that Boning Brothers Construction contracted services for $20,000 and something. B-O-E-N-I-N-G.
That was a payment on County Ditch 57.
Okay.
Some repairs there.
57. And then Paul Grabitsky, accounts payable for $18,000. Just under P.
That's under the G.
Oh, it is under the G, excuse me, yeah. Grabitsky.
So that was a payment made by the Sheriff's Department. It says satisfaction of a writ, so it's a case that was settled within the court system, and so it's a kind of a pass-through.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Makes sense.
I just have one, Mr. Chair, and I think I might know what it is, but fourth infrastructure, it's the last couple weeks, the last batch, where the
What's it called?
infrastructure environmental, FOTH, infrastructure environmental contracted services, like 22.9, and then improvements. I don't know, is that part of the for the recycled building, or is that?
It's part of the Ponderosa landfill,
okay.
and just the operation of
Operation,
that.
okay.
It's not part of the building, though.
Okay, it's because it's contracted, okay.
First Week Edge Consulting Engineers Incorporated, site ground improvements for $13,000.
These were some construction drawings for the North Mankato radio tower. We're going to need to replace that tower, so it's the beginning of that project.
Okay.
Okay. Any more?
Just one, you don't have to look it up even, but I know we get it normally on here. It says, Hearth Connection payment for recipients, and it's a big number, it's 313. Is that because it's a regional thing?
a regional quarterly payment for that regional project, so it is a pass-through. Hearth Connections, you may recall, is the administrative arm that then we forward that money to Hearth Connections and divides
They
it
do
up
it.
into the 3 sub-regions.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. I just
Or
knew it was a
the
big amount of
fiscal
money. I
agent.
didn't know. That's what I thought. Thanks.
I did see one here, Streamworks postage. Is that for all? That's in the,
Is it $12,000?
right.
Yeah, that's some prepaid postage for our tax statements.
Oh, okay, for the tax statements. Okay. I didn't hear of Streamworks before. Okay.
Nobody gets a prize then. I mean,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passes.
We tried.
Human Resources.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, you'll see the Human Resources agenda at tab 3. We just have informational items this morning. We have a promotion in the Human Services Department as a result of the board authorizing a new position. And so the second item is the follow along. We now have initiated recruitment to fill that position that we had the promotion from. And then lastly, we have initiated recruitment for a waste and recycling technician.
question about that waste and recycling technician position. Now, is there still somebody that oversees that building? This is a person that works underneath that person then, or
Right.
is it?
This is one of the individuals at the Household Hazardous Waste Center that actually help residents with their products, so it's...
Take it in and-
Right.
Part-time position, right?
Part-time position.
That's a seasonal?
Seasonal.
For the most part, more of the hours occur in the summer and fall, but it is a year-round position.
Okay.
But it is part-time.
Okay,
They're bulking paint and packaging
Right.
stuff up.
Yep.
okay.
All right.
Out there on Third Avenue.
Well, it looks like we've gone through everything. If we have a
That's
motion.
all we have for today,
Motion
Mr.
to
Chair.
recess,
So moved.
Second.
Recess to
Pub 500.
Pub 500.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we will be recessed.